Alright, how's it going, my magnificent sons of bitches? And I'm back again to go ahead and do another election prediction map. This is the post Kamala, whatever the fuck this was. Joe Biden dropped out. Not a biggie. It doesn't really fucking matter. At the end of the day, I said it wouldn't matter. And essentially, all this really does at the end of the day is just solidifies the death of the deep state, which you're still going to see the right wing go ahead and push. Oh, it's the deep state. It's the deep state. It's the deep state. The deep state is dead. After this, the deep state is absolutely fucking dead. And the sheer fact is that they went with Joe Biden. And anybody who had a functional, rational brain cell could tell you that he really wasn't qualified to take the position. But now they would like say Beto O'Rourke or the little Eddie Munster looking motherfucker, Cory Booker, fucking Kamala Harris. None of them were qualified for that position of leadership. You understand what I'm saying? It's like Ocasio-Cortez or whatever the fuck her name is. And it doesn't really matter to me at the end of the day. It doesn't. What I'm trying to sit there and tell you is that this was always the setup, and that this is pretty much the death of the progressive movement, and this is pretty much the death of what you consider the deep state. It's absolutely dead. So I mean, they don't have a platform. First off, there's nothing that they're going to be able to run on. It doesn't matter if you replace this fucking Alzheimer dementia patient with a fucking dipshit like Kamala Harris, who's going to be, spewing the same fucking redundant, rhetorical ass, just low down to the lowest common denominator fucking talking points that the fucking progressives have been sitting there yammering about for years. There's no way that your Keynesian economics works. We understand this through fucking inflation. That's dead. Your economical prowess is absolutely fucking dead. Then you go ahead and you look at what are you going to do? Well, women's right to choose, is that what you're going to run on? Because you didn't believe in a woman's right to choose back in 2020 whenever you were doing mandates. Nobody's going to listen to your fucking right to medical privacy bullshit because you don't believe in constitutional rights, which is one of the reasons why society has overwhelmingly been against you since the fucking 70s. You have the Democrats have never, ever, until Obama won a popular fucking election that they didn't have to fucking rig. And, rig away you've done to win the elections post the fucking 60s. And that's it. It's not up for discussion. Any one of you fucking shills that'll come on here and try to debate me would absolutely get fucking destroyed. It is written, so it is written, so shall it be told. Or, because your party is fucking trash. It is trash. It is garbage. Your ideologies, your programs, everything about your party is trash. And so much so that these little social programs that you claim are getting 84% here and 70% here are fixing to crash. You know what I'm saying? This is why we got to keep inflating our dollar. So there's no way, shape, and form, just in your little fucking echo chambers that mean fuck all to the rest of society, in your little marginalized groups, do you get these polling numbers to match up with what you're saying? So, with that being said, it's kind of like the way that this is, and I'll explain it because a lot of you guys are YWC guys. A lot of you think that professional wrestling is good. When you look at today's audience of professional wrestling, regardless of what either side will tell you, it is almost non-existent. You look at the ratings for A&W Wrestling, and it's at a 0.26. You go ahead and look at the ratings for Monday Night Raw, and it's at a 0.050. You know what I'm saying? So the professional wrestling product is dying. And their whole thing is, well, we do good, we sell out of house shows. How many of those tickets are you giving away in promotions? How many of those tickets are you giving away for free? How many of those tickets are purchased by family members and etc. like that? Because that shit goes into seeing how productive a damn product is. You can't just sit there and say, okay, you're going to go ahead and take our numbers and this is the metric that we're bringing in, while you're going ahead and bringing in hedge fund managers to go ahead and convince people that you're making some sort of fucking profit. It doesn't work that way. and the sheer fact that wrestling is slowly dying, the fans will sit there and cheer for a guy like Cody Rhodes and say, this is what the fan base wants. There is no fucking fan base. Alright? There is no fan base. The fan base for professional wrestling died whenever they started going ahead and marketing to these geeky ass gamer leftist nerds and stuff and say, hey, let's put the title on Jey Uso this year. You know, so I mean, you're never going to get any legitimate audience. There's no real diversity there. There's only the perception that they give themselves that it's a diverse market, but it isn't a diverse market. It is utterly, totally cringe diversity higher market. That is the fucking difference, and that's why professional wrestling is dying. I don't watch professional wrestling. I don't watch any of them because I've totally lost interest. And, you know, it's in a lot of ways for the mainstream. This is exactly how the left works. You go back and you listen to the Dave Meltzers of the world and Brian Alvarez's and whatever it is, where they do a sample size. They're like, oh, the real market is the 18 to 49-year-olds. They go ahead and take a marginalized portion of that audience and say, well, the ratings are higher based on this perspective. This is exactly what the fucking Democrats do. This is exactly what the progressives do. They take a marginalized portion of the fucking audience and then base their ideas and their operations and their narratives and shit based on that marginalized poll size. This shit doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And so, with that being said, whenever we come back into the rigged election, which I don't give a fuck what anybody says, it's a conspiracy theorist. No, you're a fucking idiot. You are fucking stupid. You know, if you have 39 million registered Republicans and 33 million registered independents, and Donald Trump wins 74 million votes, that means that Donald Trump probably won 2 million of the registered Democrats. You know what I'm saying? Which means that the election was probably closer to 74 million for Donald Trump, 47 for Joe Biden, based on the metrics that they gave us through the fucking census, rather than fucking 74 million to 81 million for Joe Biden. So you rigged the fucking election. Everybody has told you, and make no fucking mistake, Democrats, that you can't plead ignorance. You can't. I'm not going to give you fucking ignorance for malice in this one. I know that you want to go ahead and jump on this bullet. I hear you motherfuckers sit there and plead, oh, don't go ahead and contribute to malice what you can contribute to ignorance. Whenever the fucking right went ahead and did their little psyop, which I'll still call it a psychological operation. Mind you, it was anything better than you fucking Democrats did because you lost the confidence way before. You can't rig a fucking election. And your January 6th never had any fucking confidence. You only had 2% of the fucking population buying into that official narrative. It was only 2% of the fucking population. So, with that being said, this ends up being the problem. Is that you only had 2%. It was only like, what, 4.6 million? This is based off your own polls. Now, I'm not talking about everybody who watched the January 6th trials. I'm talking about the polls that you ran whenever you said, how many people still have confidence in the media? You go ahead and you do the number, you do the math on that 23 fucking percent of people that said they still had a confidence in the mainstream media, and then you'll find out exactly how much confidence you had. So this is where I'm basing the percentages on whenever I go through this bullshit right here. Whenever I'm sitting there looking at my map, I'm not going off a fucking Siena College poll or Quinnipiac or 538 bullshitty poll. I don't give a shit at all, because this is a marginalized group of people who are basing their fucking polling, their aggregates, off of a 4-year sample size of whenever the Democrats were a majority party, and that was between 2008 and 2012. You know what I'm saying? That small sample size when the Democrats were the fucking majority. And that's it. And, you know, that's only that is only 4 years out of 40 fucking years that they've ever been a majority. And no, Bill Clinton didn't win by a majority. Bill Clinton won by a minority vote. He won by a plurality, is what he won by. If Ross Perot doesn't get in the race, Bill Clinton doesn't win. And mind you, fucking Jimmy Carter won a tight race, and I doubt that that was legitimate because of all the negative press that fucking Richard Nixon. It shouldn't have been that close. It shouldn't have been that close. If the Democrats didn't have this gleaming fucking reputation of being truth tellers, then the election between Nixon or between Carter and fucking Ford should have been a lot overwhelming, margin. But there wasn't a lot of confidence in the Democrat Party, and Hollywood is not going to be able to get confidence in a party that started World War I, started World War II, Vietnam, Korea, went ahead and implemented all these government social programs and whatnot, bankrupting, inflating the currency where we had to go ahead and go onto the gold standard. No, Hollywood could not save the reputation of the white nationalists that were the Democrat parties. That party had absolutely fucking died in the fucking 60s, and it was over whenever we had desegregation. Now you can go ahead and have buffoons out there that'll go ahead and sit there and say, oh, well, it was the Southern strategy and the parties flipped. You're not going to go ahead and convince anybody with any kind of reasonable. You're a fucking social nationalist, and nobody wants social nationalists in this country. The ones that claim that they're against fascists absolutely support fascism. So what do we have now is we have the party that was overwhelmingly unpopular running the worst fucking candidate, rigging an election in 2020 to go ahead and push some agendas or to keep, and we still got a lot of conservative shit. But with that being said, you cannot go and rig a fucking election like you did to that extreme, because you're looking at a fucking disparity of like 30 fucking million votes that you had to rig to go ahead and justify this election, which you'll never be able to fucking find those 30 million votes. I'm not even sitting there saying the 10,000 votes in fucking Arizona and this. They rigged the fucking election in 2016 for Hillary Clinton, because I guarantee you, by my math and by every fucking metric, before the election in 2016, you could sit there and say what the fuck you want. By 2016, fucking Hillary probably ended up losing to Donald Trump. Donald Trump probably had 62 million votes, and I think that Hillary Clinton had like 32 million. By my math, according to the fucking numbers that were done nationally. I don't need a fucking Siena poll to sit there and tell me that what the fucking goddamn numbers are, whenever I have various other fucking polls I could go to that are done nationally, that are done fair, that are not biased one way or the other, and see where the true sentiment of the country lies. Not to mention, whenever I go ahead and look on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, particularly back whenever it was still these sites were still pretty legitimate, you could go ahead and see the like to dislike ratio, which you had to fuck up and repeal whenever you went ahead and rigged the damn election for Joe Biden. Well, what ended up happening? Do you think that the fucking globalists that are sitting here throwing all this fucking money, that have no real power at the end of the day, it doesn't, they're given this power and whatnot, do you think that this fucking beast system has any use for you? Fuck no, they don't have any use for the propaganda. They don't have any use for these fucking proxies in DC. You are highly fucking replaceable. Whether it's in a position or a party, it doesn't fucking matter. You're replaceable. And if you're not delivering in your propaganda, if you're not delivering, keeping society in line, if you're not going ahead and keeping the confidence of society and the public at large, well, you're easily fucking replaced. In fact, you're more easy to replace than you are replacing a fucking whole functional fucking society. So this is where we're at right now. Is, you had this, that fucking Biden, and Biden would have probably got destroyed this election. It was going to be a landslide. And there's no way that they could have rigged this election twice. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, I think that, as far as like the deep state goes, that's dead. That's gone. If you were buying into a secular, progressive, communist utopia agenda, and that was going to lead you to the end of the United States, ending up in a communist type of system like the Soviet Union or China, that was never going to work effectively. It was never going to fucking work. It would not be, you wouldn't be able to do that in this country. It just wouldn't work. It was different in China and it was different in Russia whenever these people were fighting in all these wars, and they were, constantly having all of these, and then the government or these people were able to go ahead and hijack the government through the military as a military coup, and it was a military takeover. You're not going to get that here in the United States, not in the constitutional republic. It's easy to go ahead and replace an aristocracy where these people were given, through nepotism, if you want to call it. It's easier to replace nepotism than it is people that are actually qualified for their positions and actually contribute value. You know what I'm saying? So whenever you were looking at, the more capitalist society here that was founded on Christian principles, it's going to be a little bit harder to fucking replace that than it was the aristocracy that was put up and installed by a holy fucking Roman Empire. So, this is where we're at right now. With this going back to a fucking theocracy. And that's gonna happen regardless if it happens now or if it happens a few years down the road, which I predict that will happen in 2027. That being said, this is the result. This is the result of all your terrible shit policies. I told you, and I've been saying this for years now, probably started talking about this shit in 2018. You start pushing that communism. Your rules for radicals don't work. You are weaker people. Communist, socialist, you are weaker people. You depend on the state. You have to have the state take care of you. There's no way that you can fight a functional revolution against people that are more independent, that are more capitalistic minded, that is more libertarian, more freedom. You're not going to be able to go ahead and fight a consistent war. You just don't have the ability to. You don't have the strength. You don't have the willpower. You don't have the intelligence. You don't have the fortitude to go ahead and maintain such a resistance. So communism was never going to work in this country because the communists are ultimately fucking weak in this country. The communists that took over Russia were different. They had fought into some engagements. They had been screwed over by the aristocracy that was in charge of these particular locations, and they were able to go ahead and overthrow these administrations that were basically given to, like I said, product of nepotism. You're not able to do that in the United States. You're not able, because you look at our communists and compare them to the communists in Russia and communists in China that fought the communist revolution, and you'll see a big fucking disparity in between the two. Alright? You look at Destiny. Does Destiny look like he's gonna fight any kind of fucking war? No! He looks like the motherfucker, the conjoined twin on Basket Case. This is what this motherfucker looks like. So do you think that Destiny's gonna do anything? Absolutely not. And so, we head into the theocracy, and that's exactly the direction that we're going into. So the Democrat Party looks weaker. That being said, I think that this race will be closer than it was with Joe Biden. I think that the race will be closer, but certainly not much. So, let's go ahead and get into my election predictions, because I'm going to sit there and say that the deep state is dead. It's absolutely dead, and it doesn't matter who they run. You're only going to go ahead and kill off. This is why it took so long, is because nobody wants to fucking commit career suicide. Which maybe they promised Kamala justice. I don't know what they fucking promised Kamala to run for this bullshit, but it is what it is. And it doesn't matter. Put in Gavin Newsom. Put in Hillary Clinton. Put in Michael Robinson, Obama. It doesn't matter, because you're not going to win. Your policies failed. Your policies suck, and nobody agrees with you. You're not going to run on anything. You don't have any policies to run on. You think you're going to run on climate change? Nobody's hearing that shit anymore. You've already kicked everybody off these fucking platforms to go ahead, and it shows you nobody trusts you, because whenever you put on these fucking platforms, whenever you put on the platform like Twitter, whenever you get your polls back that say 40% believe that the fucking Trump assassination was legitimate and 60% believe that it was staged, understand that 40% is probably the MAGA train. That 40% is the MAGA train. And that 60% is, 58% of that, it's actually probably closer to like 65%, but it is what it is. Like, most of that is just independents that just don't like the federal system. Only 2% of that is the Democrats. Only 2% is the Democrats, or the progressives, if you want to call them. So the only metric and the only way that the State Department can stay functional and contain any kind of fucking credibility is by a Republican win in 2024. And it's going to have to be a mandate. Because you had a mandate, the fucking win in fucking, the election in 2020 was a mandate election. That means that Trump should have won by an overwhelming landslide. You know, I think that the predictions that I've made on this channel, where it was 533, 532 to 6, that was probably actually the real-time results for the 2020 election. That's probably the real-time results for the 2020 election. However, I'm going to go ahead and change the results since we got Kamala Harris in this race. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm just going to go ahead and try to do this because I've already been going at it for 20 minutes already. So we got Vermont here. I'm going to go ahead and mark Vermont red, New Hampshire red. None of these are going to change. I don't think that these are going to change. New Jersey. And you know what? I'm going to change Delaware, which I've given Delaware to Biden in the past because that's his home state. And I'm going to go ahead and go Maryland. And the reason why I'm going for this is because whenever New York and Virginia flip, so will the rest of the surrounding states. Do I believe that Kamala Harris is going to win over any votes? No, I believe the Democrat Party, you know, you question everybody's intelligence, and this is universally. You question everybody's fucking intelligence. And whenever you go ahead and replace a shit candidate with a shit candidate and expect us to go ahead and continue to support your shit, then you're going to piss off even your own people. And you're going to drive them over to the other side. So what we have going on right now is you went ahead and you should have went ahead and reformed your fucking party instead of sitting here. You know, even if they would have ran with Tulsi Gabbard in The Rock, like I said they should have done back in 2020, I could have at least believed that they won. I could at least believe that they were trying to reform and have a legitimate party. However, they didn't. They doubled down with fucking Biden. So, I mean, there's just no fucking way that you're going to go out. So, I still got pretty much the same. You know, I don't believe that these people in these states, I believe that they're going to come out and they're going to fucking tell you to go fuck yourself because you've already made them look like shit. How weak does that look? That you had to change your fucking candidate right before an election because the motherfucker, and then he won the primary. How the fuck did he win the primary? How the fuck did he didn't even get challenged? You're like, you know, it just looks like you're fucking lazy and you don't give a fuck about your voters because you think your voters are fucking retards. But they're starting to catch on. They're starting to get frustrated, just like the rest of us are with your stupid fucking policies. So I'm going to go ahead and go on. And it makes you look weak. I didn't really give a shit if it would have been Newsom, if it would have been, and I'll go ahead and give you DC because DC will never flip. They're the fucking Nazi party. So, I mean, this is where you're at right now. You know, I'll go ahead and give that. And now this is an interesting one because I almost want to go ahead and give Kamala maybe Illinois, but it's going to be kind of hard. Dude, I'm telling you, I've already had this. So I mean, you know, this is where we're at right now. This is, like I said, it's not going to change much, and it never was. It'll change a little. It'll at least look a little bit more respectable, I mean. But it's not going to change very much. I don't think that these polls are going to change that much. So, the one poll that I'll give Kamala, and I don't really want to because I'm not sure how popular she is in her own state, and this is only because I believe that the Democrats will probably end up, to a degree, cucking. I'll go ahead and give her Oregon, and I'll give her California, and you know what? I'll go ahead and give her Hawaii too. So this is actually what I have right now is the Republicans still winning. They're still winning a mandate election. The deep state needs to keep some sort of legitimacy. And you look at the fucking MAGA base, and like I said, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. The State Department knows the fucking numbers. You fuckers that sit there and control the fucking interwebs and the fucking people that are in charge of DC, you know the shit that I'm saying is true. The only way that they'll be able to keep even a remote little bit of fucking credibility is by giving Donald Trump a wave mandate election, because you went ahead, you rigged the election. Doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't matter to me because we're only looking at like two options at this fucking point. You're only looking at two options, Democrats. You're only looking at two options. That's all you got. You've either got tribunals, that's if the Republicans win, which means you'll get some due process, and you know, based on your complicity on how your fucking treason, will determine the punishment for you. Or you've got the second choice, which is vigilante justice, which is what happens whenever you go ahead and rig another fucking election and you piss off 35% of the population. I guarantee you the 60% of us that are out there that are not going to vote, because I'm one of the motherfuckers, are not going to come to your defense. You've already fucking censored us. You've already fucking labeled us. You've already tried to blackball us from fucking community. So when that 116 million comes after that fucking 6 million of you motherfuckers, and then they start to demand justice, particularly you people that are in these administrative positions here on the internet, and your fucking mainstream media and shit like that, when they start going after you with the fucking tiki lamps and torches and shit, and all that shit that you talked about in the insurrection, because you would be dead if it was a real insurrection. If it was a real insurrection, January 6th, all of you motherfuckers would be dead. Because even if it was 7 million of the fucking, even if it was like 10% of that base for Donald Trump, just 10% of that base, that would be more than enough to overwhelm the United States military and the United States government as a whole. It'd be way more than enough. You just don't have enough. You would have to get local municipalities. And then you would have to depend on all these municipalities and all these government agencies and all these military personnel to go ahead and stay committed to you, which, why would you go ahead and stay committed to a bunch of sociopaths? Just doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, this is what I got. The Democrats increased their lead slightly with Kamala Harris, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think that they screwed themselves royally. I think that they are going to be seen forever as a weak party, and I think that this is the last election. I think that 2020 is the last election for the Democrats. I think that the Democrat Party is absolutely fucking dead, and it's gonna. I don't know if anything. This may be the death of the federal government. You know what I'm saying? At this point in time, you may have already had. This may lead us into a uniparty and eventually into a theocracy. So you people, tell me what you think. You like, sub, do the shit the internet tells me to do to get over. And for now, I'm out.